All right, hello and welcome to Stampscapes Friday Night Live. We have a 4x6 card base here. I've adhered a photo print of some clouds with a little bit of the impression on that cloud photo, and I'm going to apply a 4x6 piece of vellum with the same image stamped right over the front of it, done in a Stays On ink. Okay. I gotta work fast here because I've already applied spray fixative on these two surfaces, so it's drying as I speak. And I didn't want to have to take some time out during the live stream to go outside and spray, so I'm kind of taking care of this right off the bat here. All right. I don't even know what this is going to look like, but when using this type of vellum like this, what we're trying to do is we're trying to create an illusion of depth through the use of translucency. So the vellum's not completely clear, so it's going to be a little bit translucent. So when you do these two things and they're done in the same color, that's black right there, but stamped onto the photograph, and this is stamped in black, but it's on the front of the vellum, so we create a little bit of depth in there. And then this has been sprayed as well, so I'm going with the 4x6 piece of mirrored foil down below like this, and this is how you create the format of a reflection card. Okay, when I'm doing this, I should really have a piece of this in between just in case my impression is I mean, it's not going to be wet because I stamped it and stays on dry so fast, so it shouldn't be a problem. But if you're stamping it, a lot of times I use other inks on the vellum, such as a Brilliance Black or something nice and dark. Hello, Megan. How are you? All right. So there we go for our foundation here. I missed a little bit. Inevitably, you're going to get a little bit of hangover one way or another when you're doing these types of formatting like this. You can see there's a little bit of hangover right there. So what I do is when I do this, I cut and I do some additional trimming after I get all these components situated so that it's nice and flush and you get a real clean looking card. All right, so anyway, I appreciate everyone's kind words and such over this last crazy week. I'm doing this card right here. My mom really liked, which I kind of knew, but when I was clearing out her closet, it's like, oh my gosh, it's like everything's like kind of in this range of colors here as far as her clothes went. Not that pink like that, but kind of more in that spirit. I don't have some pinks, though, that I'd want here, or purpley mauve types of colors, but we're going to go with what we have. So anyway, all right, so this is a reflection card here, or this photo stamping vellum card is done in a reflection card format. I'm of the belief that, if you're spending a good amount of time, especially on any kind of water scene, it makes for a really easy tweak, to a water scene like that. Instead of having these components a little bit higher and having the water in there, you just throw a piece of this mirrored foil down here and it makes for a really dynamic kind of construction that doesn't really take a lot more to do to create this super, super dynamic type of, I don't know, it's almost three-dimensional structure of water. And of course, this mirrored type of thing like that, there's not going to be anything that's more kind of representational of a reflection than an actual reflection like that. So I don't know, it's one of those options that you have when stamping out your pieces to throw a simple piece of silver cardstock in a color scheme like this. If it's like a warm tone scene, the gold works really well, but it's really fun to do. Okay, so for those that just logged on, this is a piece of vellum 4x6, okay? This is stamped on top of the vellum. And then this piece of vellum is adhered to, you know, not this photograph right here, but that was stamped. These are both stamped in StazOn ink right here. It's the Mystic Trees, right? And then I stamp this out directly onto the photograph, okay? And then the vellum goes over, so it creates a nice kind of a lighter impression visually right there. I tried it before. I think that if I stamped this, like this, on the back of the vellum's a little bit too transparent, and I don't know if there'd be any kind of value change between this and the backside of the vellum. So I tried it on the photograph this time, and I think that pushed depth a little bit more because that's quite a bit lighter than this one right here. All right. Hello, Bonnie, Linda, Joni, and Lynn. Good to see you. Hello, Cecile. Cecil? Seal? My brain scrambled a little bit. Anyway, good to have you. Good to be back. And really nice to get my hands on some stamps here. Although I've had my hands on some stamps, stamp drawers here. My mom gave me, you know, she wanted me to take all of her stamps. She hasn't been stamping really for, you know, I don't know, quarter century, you know. But she kept all her stuff, and I've been bringing all that back. A lot of hand-indexed stuff, early Stampscapes stuff. All right. Let's see. So I'm going to put this down here somewhere. And I'm going to have this deer, kind of this larger deer like this, kind of right in here. So what we do is we take a look. We can't just stamp it like you can, but see if I stamp something, like if I stamped a deer right here, okay? It's a silhouette of one, okay? Even though this is going to be a little bit darker, stamped directly on top of this silver right here, this whole background is going to obscure the silhouette of the deer. So you need clear area anytime you're putting some sort of visual focal point in here. I mean, for maximum, you know, kind of effect, you know, you don't want to obscure it in some area, unless it's supposed to be, you know, doing some kind of thing, you know, or some, you know, it's a reflection down here and you got a shark in here. It's, you know, it's supposed to be like in the shadows or something like that. So see this right here? I left there an opening right in the middle there, so I wouldn't have any of these trees. So it gives me this amount of space, and all the way up here, if I want to, I could have it, you know, pretty high like that if I want to. Maybe that's going to be too big now that I think about it. Let's see, where'd that smaller one go? Yeah, maybe this one right here. This is the smaller version. I mean, you can use whatever you want, but if I want to put it on a little bit of a, like a rock overlook, with this, which I think is good. You know, it gives it something to stand on, unless you have something like a moose in the water or something like that. Yeah, okay, so we'll go with the smaller one. Hello, Cynthia. Candy, hello. All right, so I'm not fooling around on this one. I just went all in with StazOn here. You know, I was thinking about, I want to get some like that pinkish kind of, you know, blossoming. I mean, they're not jacarandas or something like that, but you see these photographs sometimes, and it's kind of like cherry blossoms, you know, with something in the background or whatever everywhere. Now these trees, I mean, they're not that type. Those aren't blossoms up there, but I want to get some of that color in there and see if I can do that. But that's going to be kind of the general spirit of this piece. Okay, so let's put that rock right down in here right now, just so I can get my bearings on kind of the overall structure of this. I need to know where these reflections are going to be going in here. I don't know if it's going to work out or not. Okay, okay, I completely forgot what I was going to talk about. So I stamped this out in black right here. But in order to make that really kind of a little bit more in harmony with the colors that I want to add up there, I mean, I would have like inked up some of this stamp in black, but then added, some pink colors in here, at least a little tinge of it, okay, before stamping it out. But I don't know, I just started getting this thing together like a few minutes ago, and I didn't want to wait for a while for the vellum, for those dye-based inks to dry, so I just went with the black in here. So let's see how it goes. Maybe I can add a little bit of colored pencil tinges of color up there before I hit it with the paint pens, and maybe that'll work out. All right, so let's give this a try here. Hello, Mark. Hello, Sandy. I hope everyone had a nice week. A nice smooth, fun, but if not uneventful, non-dramatic week. All right, so I'm just using about 1/2 of this right here. And again, because I have that deer that I need to put up here, and I don't want it running like all the way up to that horizon line up there, okay? Stays on the silver, okay. Sometimes you gotta watch out a little bit when stamping out on top of such a mirrored, non-porous, slick surface, because it's easy to kind of skew. Not really so much with the big stamps, but like the small kind of, like the one I'm going to be using here. That's the smaller ones that are kind of more silhouette. It's easy to kind of stamp down, and it's easy to kind of skew it accidentally because the ink isn't being absorbed into the paper or into the surface, and then you're stamping in this kind of puddle of liquid, which creates a kind of a I don't know, kind of, it's like a lubricant in between two solid forms that are not, and it's not absorbing, so it's just, they're easily, whatever. It's easy to skew it. So let's see if I can get a good impression here with this one. Let me get my bearings again. We need to take a look. This is going right here. Okay. Now I'm starting to think, is this one big enough? I think this one's going to be way too big. I don't know, maybe not. See, I don't have to have it right on the edge up here. It could be standing like down here. Let me see. That would be more dramatic right here. Okay, I changed my mind. I don't think this one's not too big here, I don't think. I thought it might be too big with the rock, but I don't think it is. So we'll go with the stronger visual kind of focal point here. I want to go kind of bold on this one anyway, for a whatever statement here. All right, please don't skew this, Kevin. I haven't been stamping for, it feels like 2 months, but it's just been a week here. All right, one good thing about the stays on is it dries so fast. Now, sometimes with the silhouette stamps too, when you stamp this, I don't know, it's not really fisheye. That's like a different thing in printing, where there's this kind of, that puddle of liquid underneath. It can kind of separate and not absorb. Well, since it's not absorbing at all, you're just kind of moving around this liquid area underneath there. So sometimes when you stamp out solids like this on this type of foil, sometimes it doesn't stamp out evenly, but I always mentioned that. Yeah, see, like right here, it doesn't stamp out right super flush like this because it's, I don't know, it's created kind of a puddle in there. So with something like that, that doesn't look too bad. I mean, it could be like a little bit of lighting on that animal, like that. But see that right there? That's a little bit too light for me. But this ink right here is the same ink as kind of, it's kind of like Sharpie pen, just permanent pen inks. So I always keep one of those handy right here. It's not a Sharpie, but the Amazon one, but it's the same thing. So I'm just going to fill it in with that, and we'll make it solid and, if you're doing this on, if that ever happens to you on, it doesn't really happen on porous paper because it's absorbing in there. But if it ever does, you just fill it in with a similar ink to whatever you stamped it in. So if it's water-based ink, just go with a dye-based ink pen. Sometimes, sorry about that squeaking there. I want to get this StazOn off of this stamp right here. All right, there we go. Now that was like hard ink on there. It might have had StazOn on there from before. But that's one of the reasons I didn't use a lot of StazOn for like decades, is because I thought I had to use StazOn cleaner on it. And you don't, you know, you just use like regular water-based ink and it's fine. I mean, water-based, or just water, and it's fine. Okay, in here too, I tell you what, I think what's going to be better than just kind of going in here with the pen can be a little bit, you know, harsh and leaving little streaky marks in there. So you could just take, you know, Q-tip or something like this, I think. Like I said, I haven't been using this too much, so, but I would think, this is what I do with the like the Brilliance inks when this happens. All right, let me give this a try here. Let me see if I can do this quickly as the StazOn ink will dry. I think I'm kind of moving around the ink a little bit on there, or am I? That's already been laid down. No, okay. I can't tell what's happening here. Can't tell if I'm kind of removing ink or applying. Let me see. It's because this is like shining back up at my face. Okay, it seems like it's applying. I might hit it with the pen as well. But I'll get on, I'll apply some kind of smoother applications of this at first. All right, and let's hit some of the other areas down here, like that little, this one leg isn't super solid right there, okay. I'm kind of doing this right here. Not like that, okay. So you just kind of use it like you're using a brush. Okay, that's working. And you can also kind of use the side of this too, like this. That's how they usually teach you in drawing classes. You're supposed to draw like this, okay? You know, to get more gesture in it, which I probably did, you know, when the teacher was kind of walking around. And I switch, you know, like this. And then when he passes by, you switch back to this. All right, let's see it. Let's see what we have here. All right, nice and 3D kind of ish. It's like a little diorama or something like that. Is what I like to kind of, I liken it to sometimes when I see these reflection card formats like this. We'll keep doing that, Laura, and say, yeah, then, you know, it'd be funny if you ask your husband to go outside and, you know, see where that's coming from. Hello, Catherine. Sharita, good to see you. Oh, 2 a.m. there. The sound woke me up. We'll get it like a chalkboard sometime and, you know. All right, so let's see. I tell you what, while we're doing this kind of foreground in here, let's just finish it off a little bit more. So I want to go with something else in this foreground. Let's just keep it simple, maybe with just some branches like this, okay? Now, if you haven't seen the me talking about the reflection card formats before, you know, this reflects down into this area down here. That's usually, you know, people are looking at these cards at a 45-degree angle, roughly, okay? So this is reflecting straight down into this lower area, right? This is like almost like a vertical line right here. But see this shard right here and right here? I mean, you don't have to do anything about it. I generally like to, though, because this is kind of it's a little bit of a distracting shape in this type of thing. Now, I don't try to cover them up completely, but if I just run some leaves like this across in here, you see what I mean? It really breaks up that like it's like a glass shard or something like that. It's, you can probably do something where you utilize that in some kind of composition, but for nature, I don't know. If you want to create some op art or something like that, where it's like integrated into the theme of something, that'd be kind of cool. But yeah, for the natural world, it's not something that I think looks good. Hey, maybe if I had like a pyramid here, or like here, it's like some kind of Egyptian thing or something. And then you get this kind of triangular thing, and there's these other triangular forms right down here, just in the negative space. Maybe that's kind of interesting to leave it in there. It's, what they call a kind of repetition of form for whatever visual, I don't know, what visual harmony. It's like designers do that a lot, They have that repeating kind of textures, contrasting ones too, but a lot of repeated shapes and colors, throughout like a household, going from room to room, which is easy to do in a model house because you're not amassing stuff over the course of like decades, just doing it all at once. But that's the type of thing that they do. You repeat forms, in different shapes or sizes, different sizes more. Okay. I'm always kind of forgetting with the stays on how long I should hold this down. Sometimes if I hold it down for too long, it dries and I lift up and it doesn't leave as strong of an impression because the ink is dried on here and lifted off. So I don't know. I always say that if you're doing kind of a different type of media that you've used in the past, do some test prints and kind of get the feel of impression times and pressure. Depends how wet your ink pad is too, which might change, from usage to usage. Catherine, where are you located, guy? Can you remind me? Where's 2 a.m. right now? All right, see that right there? It's kind of like softening up this area down here, but I kind of have these areas see, I have it kind of these, these leaves kind of pointed inward. So it's like pointing to our character. It's framing them off too. But you get something like that down there. And see this right here? See, this is kind of obscuring this. There's that little shard right there, but it's not any big deal. At least we don't have this big, long one like that. But see, I can put another one right here if I want to. Some leaves if I want to kind of bring this in a little bit more. But I think that's, I'm going to say I think that's enough. But maybe if I put like a little piece right, like these leaves right here, just right here maybe. So we can go from kind of high and it can transition into something lower right here. I don't want to put it like in front of it. You could though. But if you want a little bit of a stronger, kind of main kind of focal point, then just kind of leave it as is, kind of leave an opening for it. It's like a doorway into the scene for the viewer. Or if you have something that's really kind of delicate and kind of jumpy, like some animal or something like that, you can do this type of thing where, like there's a deer in the forest or something like that. Okay, not in this. you know, this water. But if this was a meadow right here, and let's say this was a really jumpy deer, you know what I mean, or whatever, you can put a unicorn back there, you know what I mean? You can put like bushes or something all in front of here, so it feels like you're the viewer and you're peeking into something, where if it sees you, it's going to run away, but you have this cover right here, so you can do those types of emotional or visual kind of you know, little tricks like that, as if you were there, you know, in that spot. So, you know, I don't know. So when it comes around to the Halloween cards that, you know, coming up soon, maybe you put, you know, some barrier in between you and the zombies or whatever. All right, so let's take a look at this foreground area down here. Okay. So see that right there? I think it looks reasonably 3D, but it's one of those things where it's just really easy to create that kind of illusion with a two-dimensional effect, okay? Or two-dimensional application of stuff, you know, to get a three-dimensional, you know, type of thing. It's not only just three-dimensional, but, you know, it has that little parallax type of thing going on, you know, where you get, you know, that reflection kind of moving against the foreground like this if they kind of move this card around like this. So it really creates that nice little, whatever, dynamic in there. All right. Norway. There's a lot of good, my son likes doing this sport called tricking, and there's a lot of good Norwegian trickers. It's a very obscure sport, you know, as far as sports go, you know. You know, like stamping's kind of obscure as a hobby. Not so much anymore, but, you know, that sport is very much so. I think there's an event that takes place out there, like in all of Europe. I think it's in Norway, that my son's mentioned. Okay, let's see. Let's take a look here. This is where I'm kind of like confused as to where to go here. Okay, I think I want to get a little bit of color in here, you know, some of this color scheme right here. It might stand out a little bit kind of weird. So I think I'm going to try to go in here and add some of these tones in here. All right, so this is kind of it's a temperature-less scenario right here. You know, there's blue up there, and blue's a cool color, but I think it'd be good to get a little bit of warmth in here. I'm not talking about yellows and oranges or something like that, unless these were fall tones, but... So I'm going to take something like just some really pale colors like this right here, but a little bit warm. Not the purple, but these two right here. And I think I'm going to lay a little bit of that down in here. If I lay these two down in here, I don't think we could see them because this image has been stamped out against a darker background, but this is largely over the top of these white clouds, so I think I can get some of this warmth right into that area. So let's see how that goes. If you ever kind of want to know if something's going to blend well, you know, in terms of kind of visual harmony, all you have to do is don't think about things theoretical, just kind of lay them out like that. And if things kind of look like they reasonably, you know, they'll blend kind of reasonably well together, they usually will, okay? Especially because you don't have to add that version of it. You can add this version. These versions are, it's usually some incarnation of a, you know, a color that I'm using when it comes to colored pencils. It's usually not the 100% value of it, okay? So when you get something like this going and something like this, and here's a brown right here, like that, okay? You know, you just kind of line them up from light to dark like that, and, you know, I mean, that's really pale, but that's just an example of kind of the foundation of it. You can always go darker. All right, that, and why don't we grab maybe a little bit of a green like this, because greens and purples kind of are natural I don't know if they're complementary or triadic. I don't know where they are on the color wheel next to each other, you know, but like a pastel version of, you know, some version of green looks really good with violets. So I don't know. I guess it's like in nature when you see like lupin and out in a green meadow or something like that, right? All right. So anyway, hello, Froggy Fresh. I was looking at that um, photo of your train setup. You know, that wooden. Okay, I've forgotten the word. Is it trellis? Not trellis, but what's a bridge out there? Trestle, right? All right. All right, so see that little warmth right there? Boy, that's really affecting it hard. I don't know. Maybe that's a little too much. I'll knock it down a little bit. Boy, that really stands out. I don't know if can you see that warmth right in there? It's right over the top of that blue. So, I don't know. It's showing up a lot more than I thought it would with a very light. I just put on like a coat like that too, but that really glows. Maybe it's one of those things where it's a reflection card, so you add it up here and it's, you know, it's doubled down there, you know. But that's a foundation color. I mean, you can leave it like that, but I just see it as kind of like a base layer for my other colors to come. So if it's like, oh my God, it's like too warm and too yellowish, well, it's a base color. It's not kind of what I intend kind of to, you know, to be showing kind of in the end result. All right. We have that. Let's try the brown, okay? Now the brown's kind of dark, you know, inherently. So when I get to something like this, it's a little bit more utilized in the shadow areas. So we have a bunch of these rocks in here. So like where this rock is a little bit lighter, it's going to transition into a little bit of a darker area. But I see I already have that line drawn in there. So a lot of what I'm doing is I'm just kind of reiterating the shadows that are already in the designs themselves. I'm just kind of reiterating it with colors so it makes the shadows a little bit richer as a result. Okay. And it was Joni and Lynn out there still watching. These are the types of things, not just shading like this, but we're going to be working on lighting with Lynn. Yeah, that's a good series right there, Lighting with Lynn. All right, so see that right in there? You know, that's getting a little bit more kind of developed in there. As it is right now, it doesn't look good. We're gonna blend it, okay? It's kind I don't know. It's not really at this point in time just a complete kind of base layer. But here comes the green, okay? And then we're gonna go to black as well. All right, so there's a little bit of that greenish tinge. Yeah, that's starting to come around now with the green, I think. Don't judge your pieces as you're working on them, especially if you're going to be working through a lot of different colors and things like that. You remember a base layer is just that, it's a base layer. Or if you don't intend for something to be a base layer and you start coloring something, it's like, oh my God, you know, that's not coming out the way that I anticipated. Well, then just make that color a base layer and just go over it with, you know, something else. So you can always go to black. You know, things might get a little bit darker than kind of what you kind of anticipated, but you can always kind of bury things, you know, in scenic stamping in additional layers of tone. You can put something over the top of it. You can layer images over the top of it. You know what I mean? If we're doing like a birthday card for someone or something like that, if you don't, you know, if the central image is going to be like a birthday cake, you know what I mean? I don't know if you want to bury that birthday cake in a lot of other imagery because it gets rid of the main thing. But in scenic stamping, it's perfectly natural for things to be kind of overlapping, and you know, a tree can be, you know, a branch can be in front of a tree or something like that. Or you can make things darker because there's different times of day too. So, um, you know, whatever. The end results are, you know, or the scenes are very malleable. All right, so see that right there? So it's really kind of warm. I can't really bring that down here because I can't really color the, you know, the silver, unfortunately, to kind of match this area right here with that area. But, you know, yeah, I guess you could if I blocked off some white down there and really kind of affixed it with a spray fixative, then you can kind of go over a little bit, you know? Or this could be cut out of a piece of white paper or something like that. You can glue it down here, you know, if you want to, whatever, take this lower portion, you know, a step further, you know, you can do that. I usually don't, though, but you could. Hello, Debbie. Good to see you. Never an end to model railroading. No. People are into like that hobby. The people that really get into it, that's one of their. It's like a life hobby. In Balboa Park down in here in San Diego, there's the Model Railroad Museum, which is one of the, you know, I don't know how many museums there are. There are a dozen at least. But we used to go in there quite a bit. We'd have this pass that gets you into every museum in the park. It's like the best deal in San Diego. So if we wanted to just kind of do a quick walkthrough, it was you know, it was no big deal. But we'd usually go in there, and there's like this one enormous setup, but then there's like several smaller ones. There's the outdoor one. But anyways, what I'm getting at is you go in there, and I'm sure everyone, you know, like working in there is probably volunteers, but you can tell they're, you know, they're like lifelong kind of railroad, model railroad enthusiasts right here. I'm going in with the blacks. I'm really starting to develop these shadows a little bit more. See right in here, there's kind of darker, and then this lighter area in here. I think I want to anchor this whole thing down a little bit more, so I'm going to go with a little bit of a darker tone, except for these two rocks right here. I'm going to put a little bit of a light, darker shade right in here, just in general. When I have things on top of the water, I usually like to make it a little bit darker in this kind of this lower area down here, because I think it kind of transitions into there a little bit better, you know, like this area right here. To have a little bit of a darker kind of meeting point. I think it looks more realistic. Okay. That being said, I usually throw some mist on here too, but just in terms of the shading. So this one right here, see this one right here? This one's lighter to begin with, so when you get something that's represents something that's farther back in the distance, you don't want to go too dark on it, because the darker things are usually the things that are closer to us, because, you know, light, when it bounces off far objects, it's coming back to our eye, and that's how we perceive things. Okay, so I can go a little bit darker, but I don't want to go too dark. Okay, I don't want like the overall kind of shadow area just to be so much darker than the rest of the shadows within the form. But you can anchor a little bit though. Okay, so see I'm going like that. See that base there is a little bit, you know, a little bit darker now. So I feel like it anchors the piece down a little bit more. Now this is starting to get a little bit darker down here, so I'm going to oscillate. I'm going to go a little bit darker here, darker here. I'll leave a little bit lighter in, you know, in between here and there. So this is where I start kind of, you know, applying a little bit of a more, you know, kind of varied application of the darker tones like this, okay? Yeah, see, this looks like it's really sitting in that water now by having that shadow right in there. And I think that right in here it looks a little bit more three-dimensional as well. I don't know what you think. Yeah, do you think so? Hello, Jennifer. Thanks for jumping in, checking out the scene. All right. So I'm looking at these tree trunks, maybe a little bit of a let's go with a little bit of brown. I'm looking at some other colors, but let's go with a little bit of that on a couple of these maybe. Maybe I won't do it over the whole thing. You know, there's some branches right up here, but if I color these ones in, then it's not going to stand out amongst the darker branches quite so much, so I'll leave those ones a little bit lighter up there. But where it's like an open trunk right in here, see, these clouds are going through here, so I darkened up a couple of those to create contrast between here and the background. But the contrast up here, where I have these branches going up here and they're lighter tone, they're already in a darker area, so I'm leaving it as is, so that, you know, we'd see those forms up there. So that's a little bit of a tweak, you know, or a little bit of a whatever design choice right there. So we're playing kind of contrasts against one another. Here it's really light up there, so we darken them in. But here it's really dark up here, and this cloud is in the background. Like here, it's all blue up here. So this would be, it's already light on dark in here, but this is light on light, so you can just kind of create a little bit of more contrast like that. All right, so you can see those. You can see it right here. This one's a little bit of a brownish tinge right there. Okay. All right, let's try some of this purple tones in here. Things on the water, fire in the sky. Okay, I'm just gonna add a little bit of this in here. I mean, you can't really see it too much. I can see it a little bit here. Some of these black impressions in here are just a touch, you know, a little bit of a tinge of this purple. Like eggplant, violet. All right. Again, here we are with this darker tone, over dark, so I'll just give it a little bit of a tinge of this violet here. Okay, let's take a look again. You always kind of want to hold things off at arm's distance to kind of get a feel for what we're doing and how it's affecting the overall piece. Because as you start doing these little detailed types of things, it's easy to kind of just focus in on like a 1 square inch area and just kind of, your focus kind of goes around like this, you know. And then you're not kind of watching what's happening kind of overall. So sometimes it's like, oh my God, you know, I added, it's usually a matter of like, you know, maybe I shouldn't have added so much, you know, which you can go back and balance off again. I'm not, you know, I mean, that happens that happens to me all the time. But I try to minimize it somewhat. But we're always trying to push extremes though too, you know what I mean? So it's kind of, you know, or whatever, push kind of the maximization of some sort of look, you know what I mean? And the only way to kind of do that, I know I'm kind of saying two different things here, but or maybe I don't know if it's opposite, but you know, you kind of always want to. I'm going for the maximization of a certain type of look, and the only way to really know that is to kind of go over, you know, the amount that you should have, you know, or that might have been ideal. Maybe that's the better word, you know. And then when you do that a lot of times, it's like, okay, you know, kind of you have a little bit more of an instinct on, you know, when to stop with whatever media that you're applying going in the future. But anytime I'm utilizing like new media and combinations, and I wouldn't call this one, you know, something I've done a lot, you know, before, but, you know. So put the brakes on a little bit sometime, but, you know, largely, you know, just kind of, don't be afraid of, kind of, overdoing it. You know what I mean? But have a little bit of a controlled overdoing it. All right. So, anyways, you see those like little violet tinges up here. You know what I mean? It's not just like black over, you know, white and blue, and the, you know, it's a little bit more full looking now. You know, with these two additional colors like that. And for me, I think it's going to create a little bit of an easier transition using these pens here. As I say that, and after I, you know, just got done talking about all that, I'm starting to think, I wonder if that's going to be overdoing it a little bit too much with the, especially like the 3mm pens. So I tell you what, so what I'll do is I'll start with the 0.7mm ones, and I'll just add some touches up there, and we'll see how it looks, and if we like it, we can always go more. Yeah, Bill. Yeah, I lost my mom last Tuesday. So, I don't know. She was fine on a Saturday, not so fine on a Sunday, went in the hospital, you know, emergency. On Monday, gone on Tuesday, you know. So, and she was 94. So she lived a long time and was in good health. I mean, my mom was 94 and she lived in a very small town, so she was still driving around just fine. She got, you know, she took a test fairly recently too with the DMV, so she was fine to drive, but I don't know. And largely, she didn't really kind of, I don't know, none of us knew the kind of the gravity of the situation because it, you know, it turned on a dime a couple times over that 24-hour period. So I don't know. I'm glad. I don't know. She was like feeling fine right up in the, you know, until the end. So I don't know. I'm somewhat thankful for that aspect of things. Okay, let me get this thing moving here. Let's see. All right, here we go. All right. See this color right here? That was like one of my mom's favorite colors. That she liked to wear, at least. I was like, we were like packing up her closet, and it was like there was a lot of fleece, like vests and jackets, kind of all in this colors right here. Okay, this is working out good right here. It's kind of subtle with this 0.7mm. Okay, I think that's about as close as I can get. Let me see something right here too. Let me cover up this part right here. I think I'm getting a lot of glare, and my camera is kind of compensating a little bit for that. Let's do that. Okay, but you see that little tinge with the opaque nature of acrylic? I can go light over dark right here, okay? But it's not super light, okay? So it kind of harmonizes with those background tones, okay? The impression, the black impression, mainly. All right, so there we go, like that. I think that looks pretty good. I think it looks fairly natural, like that. I'm well. Jeannie, thanks so much for asking. Yeah, I agree, Sharita. Doesn't it look a little bit more kind of rich, huh? It's a little bit richer tonally, but it's also richer texturally too, because we have that new kind of texture in there. So it's kind of layered in there a little bit more. It's a little bit more three-dimensional. And I think that's, that's one of the things that we're going for here in terms of the reflection card form. I'm always going for kind of dimension and the illusion of depth, but especially so with, like a reflection card. Okay, let me see if this one's going to work on this side right here. I think it does. So if you just joined in, this impression right here is stamped onto like a cloud photo, kind of like this. All right, and this is stamped on the top of vellum, and then this vellum has been adhered to the photo, okay? And I use that a spray adhesive to do that, so it's nice and flat like that. Okay, so this is stamped out in black too, but it's on the photograph, so you put that vellum, which is a little bit more translucent, over the top of it, and that makes this image a little bit lighter, and thus it looks farther back in the distance, okay? So as I'm applying this, these little violet kind of touches here, these little, whatever, spring blossoms. On this, I'm really applying it just on top of bare vellum, okay? But when I'm doing it over here, I'm applying it on top of, the black StazOn ink that I've stamped that impression on. It didn't stamp out real dark. I think I don't know. It's like stamped out on the vellum. So I don't know. The vellum kind of, sometimes when you're stamping vellum, it kind of, with certain inks, it kind of results in a kind of a lighter print for some reason. I don't know. Maybe it's because it's not grabbing on and onto the paper as much. That vellum kind of feels like almost like plasticky to me in some ways. All right, so there we go with that. I almost feel like I'm getting smudgy here, but that's just the colored pencil kind of in there, okay? And what I'm going to do is some of these little violet pinkish blossoms are falling off the tree, so I'm putting some of them down into this. It doesn't look like, oh my God, there's a bunch of little violet dots in there. I mean, when I'm sitting here right in front of me, I can just kind of make them out, so it's not really obtrusive in terms of like a weird color in there. So it just kind of harmonizes reasonably well like that. Okay, do you see that little, I don't know if you can see it. Do you get that a little bit on your screens? A little bit of a somewhat slight violet tinge in there. Okay, but that's falling onto that little, whatever, outcropping like that. But what I also like to do is I like to put some of these little petals in my water like they're floating in the water, okay? So let's add some of that. Let me put this over the top of that, just in case some of that is still a little bit wet here. Maybe not use this one right here, but... And what I do is I kind of add some down here, but I kind of cluster it. Oh, gosh, this is hard for me to show you. I'd have to do it like that, but this is like flat right here. Okay. I like to kind of cluster these little whatever blossoms kind of floating around in that water like that. Let me see if I can show you right there. Yeah, there we go, right there. Okay, so when you go like this, okay, I don't know if you can even see them in there. See those right there? I can see them. I'm getting, the camera's like gets too much glare, but when you go like this, those types of things like that, they're static, so it kind of floats, and then the reflection moves behind them, so it adds to that, that kind of three-dimensional illusion, or, the reflective illusion, like it's water or something like that. Okay, let's do the same thing on this side. And like in water, there's certain types of patterns, so things tend to collect like, in there, like in little groupings like that. So yeah, like I like these colors too, Megan. My thing, when we're adding these colors in here like that, like I wanted an excuse to use those colors, okay? But it was how am I going to incorporate them in with this was the question. See like that? I don't know if you can see that down there too. That little violet tinges are kind of reflecting down there. I think we can see those a little bit. It's subtle. Like I need like a much more. I need like a 0.7 millimeter one like this, but I don't. I don't have. I don't know. Is this? That's a little bit closer. Okay, I'll use some of this pink in here too to get a little bit more contrast up here. But okay, so those are those little petals down there. Okay, like that. So it stands to reason that on the other side of this shoreline right here, we might have some other trees kind of overhanging here, or some of those petals kind of floated over here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to change scale with them and go with I'll go with one of these colors right here. Maybe this is a little bit too, dark. This one might be a little bit too light. It's going to really stand out against this area down here. It doesn't stand out when it's like flashing like this and it's really light like that. So I think maybe like this one is kind of like might be a good choice. Let's test out first though a little bit. I mean, we can go with multiple tones. You don't have to stick with one color, But here we go. And I'll kind of group them a little bit like that. I'm kind of doing a little bit of a elongated, as opposed to a circular dot like that, just because these are like closer to us, and maybe the shape of the blossom is a little bit, not round like that. Okay, so see this right down there. I mean, it looks kind of weird when you look at it like that, but that's not, when someone gets these reflection cards from you, they're not looking at it like that. They're looking at it like this. Okay, so do you see these down here like that? And they're kind of subtle, with that white kind of reflecting down in that area, but you get a little bit of that color right down there, that little pinkish tinge like that, or violet, okay? That, I mean, I could even make some of these leaves a little bit violet, like, they're the blossoms or something, or I can put blossoms amongst these ones, but sometimes when I do that, it stands out a little bit too much and it kind of looks weird because I can't blend them in because they're just against this silver like that. So sometimes going a little bit more subtle and simple in this whole area is kind of more effective. So anyway, yeah, thanks everyone. I appreciate that. So, we're here in this kind of, stamping, channel right here. But I always liked it. But my pre dad's stroke, my parents, I started having them. They were both like long retired when I started out with stamp. Well, nah, actually, I don't remember when my mom retired. I've been doing Stampscapes for now for 30 years. I think so, something like that. Um, but it was kind of so you know you have your kind of your production thing making stamps at home and things like that, but it was always the shows. Sometimes I had like high school kids, college kids working for me or something like that. They can't go to the shows, like the conventions out of state and things like that, so it was always kind of tough finding people to do that. So at one point in time, my parents, they're, able and willing. And so for a certain amount of time, we didn't live close. We lived in the same state, but they always lived like 3 hours away from me, and now 5 hours. But, going to some different shows around the country, they started joining me on that circuit. So it was like really fun. It was like an extra excuse to get together outside of, the typical holidays or whatever, birthdays and things like that. So, and then they like traveling. I haven't traveled with my parents in that type of capacity, before. When you're traveling with them, you're typically going and like visiting family and things like that. But so it's like you're out on the road, and you're seeing kind of your parents in a different light. And it's kind of, you know what I mean? And it's different too because, I'm their kid. And, when you're doing the traveling with them mostly, it's mostly you're traveling with your parents, their parents are going somewhere, you're going along with them. So they were going along with me, and I'm showing them how to do things and stuff like that, and doing all the, logistics and reservations and all that type of thing. So that was kind of interesting, and it was a fun dynamic for them too. It was kind of interesting seeing my dad running a register, which he'd never done anything like that, in his life. And and then my mom really liked walking around the stamp conventions. Okay, here comes that lighter pink in here for the tree right here. And then she became, a stamper, just kind of, by, I don't know, kind of default. You're around at the stamp shows all the time and watching demonstrations and things like that. So fun stuff, fun times, and that was one of those other kind of unforeseen kind of I don't know, benefits of Stampscapes, and having Stampscapes is that extra time in there, and whatever perspective. All right, there we go, like that. So, oh, that really stands out, this one right here. It might look lighter, darker though when it dries, but do you see that right in there? So when I go like that, you can really see that. But I think it's glistening like that because those little beads of paint are still wet. But look how that really stands out like that. Even if it gets a little bit darker though, I think this extra paint pen um, value, a lighter value, will benefit the kind of the dimension of it all. Yeah. Your dad was 92 and mom 88. Got it. Yeah, yeah. I contacted Linda. I thought, people are, I don't know. People might be wondering what the heck happened, to me. So Linda graciously, kind of asked me if she wanted me to post on Facebook, at least. So right now too, I have this, I added some additional down here. So I've got those two gigantic rolling stamp organizers. If anyone ever knows what I'm talking about, I'll post a picture of it up sometime. But my mom had these two really awesome stamp cabinets. So they're drawers. They look like flat file drawers. They're real thin, and they're, the size that where you can put a probably a 1 inch wood mounted stamp, or most of them are like 3/4 inch stamps, wooden stamps. I don't know. They might be like 10 drawer systems. So some of them all have it's just one big drawer so it's all stamps. And then she has other ones where they have those little organizers inside, so you can put your pens all kind of organized and everything like that in there. I mean, I've seen these over the years over at her house in her stamping area, but I don't know. I didn't look too close, but I brought those back. They're just really gigantic. And I don't know, it's going to make it easier for me to find my wood mounted stamp. A lot of times I have all my stamps kind of like just piled up here on the side. I got this big pile here, and I've been organizing them, or I just, not organizing, but storing them in those acrylic frames, which a lot of people used to do for their wood mounted stamp collection. But I got those frames like stacked up, like, I don't know, like I have like 5 or 6 of them high. So if I'm looking for, ledge, I got to find that one container. I have them organized kind of by theme a little bit, but it was a real hassle. And most of the new stamps, it's all, unmounted like this, so I use a bunch of them, and then I eventually get around to kind of putting them back in my binder for unmounted. But okay, I'm using some white and going into some of these highlight areas. So look on the tops of some rocks. But anyway, so I'm the stamper here, but thanks to Mom for helping me get my stamps further organized. Here, she bought those. The places that used to sell these. They used to sell them on Rubber Stamp Madness. There were places that did that, but most of the times there would be, if you went to a stamp convention, if people have never been to one, like, or especially like in the past, there would always be some manufacturer there of stamp organizers, and there were typically these drawer systems, and they were typically on wheels. I mean, it might be a different manufacturer, but these manufacturers would typically be, somebody got into stamping, and it's the husband. He was into woodworking already, so he made her, or them, organizers for their stamps, and it's like, hey, you got the plans for, maybe we can sell them. So that was the typical scenario for whatever stamp furniture manufacturers. And you would go and you could, they would have, a display at the shows, and you would go and order your whatever type of unit you wanted and whatever type of organization you wanted. Or those people that displayed those units, people would often want to buy hey, can I just buy your floor model here? So they would have on the units themselves, it would be like sold. You know what I mean? So, some at the show can just take it home and not pay for shipping and all that too. And then those manufacturers, for those the makers of those products, wouldn't have to, haul it home either. So it was, good for them too. But I think my mom probably would have, she probably would have ordered, maybe, I don't know. Then again, she got into the shows like 2 hours before it opened, with me as a manufacturer and vendor at those shows. So I don't know. She could, I don't know, maybe she put dibs on those, the display models at the show early. I don't know. Well, those are fun travel shows. A lot of times people thought, oh, okay. Someone thought that since my dad was running the register, and early on I was like 25 at those shows, so when we went to these shows. There was no internet or something like that, so it was like after the show, um, and I'm reading some correspondence, and they said, "Oh yeah, so Kevin was running the register, and he had his son demonstrating." Okay, so that I think a lot of people thought that at those early shows. My mom was still working at the time, so it was my dad. My dad did one or two conventions, I think. And then I had other people, but then my parents became kind of the things. Okay, so you see that little kind of those little highlights throughout here? See how that makes it look a lot more kind of three-dimensional in there? And I put some highlights on these little, um, right around in here, uh, on the leaves and things like that, and on the trunks like that, so it stands out a little bit more. One little tiny little detail is the trunks on the right side of the scene where they're being left side illuminated. I put the lighting on the left side, or that little highlight on the left side of those trunks. It's a real subtle thing. And then see these ones right here? The light's coming from the right, so I did that right side illuminated like that. So it's just doing a little check like this. It's like you put, if there's a trunk right there, you just kind of, I flip it upside down like this, and I can just do that little check mark like that. So it's not like a real kind of precarious thing to keep it on, this one little eighth of an inch wide, trunk like that. It's not like you're trying to keep right on. You just, put a little thing like that and just go like that. Just do a little check mark like that. So that's like there. It's just going like that. Not like this, but, just go like that and that. Okay. So let's take a look here. I think we're almost there with this, and we'll do the funnest thing for me to do on here. I think we're at that time right now, so anyway, let me see here. Sorry, I wasn't reading here. Yeah, mom was really healthy for most of her life, Jeannie. It was kind of strange. I didn't even realize this, but I think I was like in my 30s or whatever, and I realized, and my mom said too, and my dad really never mentioned it. My mom, I didn't know her like to be sick like once in my life. I'm talking about like cold, flu, whatever, nothing. And I just never had anything. I don't know how you make it through like that. When you got like three little kids, they're catching everything and bringing it home from everyone at school and stuff like that. But, I mean, she had like a hip thing, but never like sick. So, yeah, just, I don't know, whatever immune system or something like that. I, on the other hand, am not immune, from being ill. So, yeah, I'm kind of curious, if let's say if this whole COVID type of thing, being that she's never gotten sick, a day in my life, even in her older years, except for this thing that happened, recently. Um, if she would have been like exposed to around COVID or anything like that, just not prone to getting it at all. White pigment ink on a cotton ball, just with the brilliance right here. Probably any type of pigment ink would work fine. I'm guessing on the vellum because it's somewhat porous, so okay. Now I'm covering this off. Normally I'd be doing this and I wouldn't have this adhered into here already. But one of the things I did was I was going to adhere the vellum, okay, on top of the photo when I went outside. But it seems weird, using spray adhesive over the front of a photograph. So I accidentally added it on the back of the photograph instead. So it's like, okay, I just need to adhere everything in here just right from the beginning. So So I'm just going to block this off down here because I don't want any of this white pigment down in this silver area, okay? And where I'm going to add this in, I'll add this in at the base of this. I know this is going to go in a little bit counter to like, hey, you know, Kevin, you just added that shadow down there with dark because you said you wanted dark. Now you're just lightening it up. Well, it's going to be a little bit darker over there, and the shadow is going to be underneath this. So it might show through a little bit more than if I hadn't done it, okay? So it's anchoring it down a little bit, but then we have this kind of this, you know, whatever, cloudy kind of a misty base like that. And see, I'm not going to take it all over here. I oscillate things, so it's like some mist and no mist over there, okay? Like that. And let's take a look at this right now. Okay, so that's like a little bit of cloud. Do we want that? I think it'd be good to have that kind of a little bit more bold right there. So I'm going to put some of that white, whatever, mist right in here. So it's soft, okay, and light, but let's contrast that against dark and whatever, sharp, okay? So this is light and soft, dark and sharp, okay? But I want to get some of that mist somewhere in here. So why don't we put a little bit like right around in here or something like that. So it'll go, you know, darker, softer, darker, soft and light, you know, darker like that, okay? Like that. So you just go in here. And if you're not certain about it, then you just don't add too much in there. You just kind of add a little bit at a time. So you can just go like this. This is almost like drying because I didn't re-ink just now, and it's, you know, I've been blabbing. So you take a look at it like that and see it's just that little bit like that, okay? So you can play contrasts against one another like that, okay? And you know, you want to kind of want to transition it. You don't want to just hit it right here and have this big blob right there. You want to, I'm kind of adding it right here, and then I'm kind of tapering it a little bit this way and this way away from it, okay? So when we do those lighting experiments with Lynn, that's what I'm going to be talking about. I'm talking about, you know, shadow transitions, okay? There's a viewer, his name is Lynn here. We're gonna do some lighting lessons with him. Okay, let's put a little bit through here too. Why not? It's lighter in there anyway, so let's kind of, whatever, accentuate it, okay? So I'm gonna put a little bit right here, like that. I'm kind of obscuring like one trunk, and we'll leave the rest as is, okay? I'll put a little bit up here in these trees. See this light area right here behind, it's like a little bit of a light area like that, but it's right in here. So I'm just adding a little bit in there like that, like additional. So it's like the light is kind of coming through the tree limb like that. Over here, it's a little bit too dark, so maybe I won't put any of it. I mean, it's light enough. If I wanted to, I could put some there, but you know, I think that looks fine like that. So these are kind of like sharp little highlights. I mean, this isn't highlighting, but these are lighting up here. These are sharp. It's sharp lighting, crisp, a little dot. This is like soft, really diffused lighting. So it's a nice textural contrast with each other. But they're kind of doing the same type of thing. They're making our imagery through opacity, various degrees of opacity. You know, these little pen dots like that. They're pretty opaque, not super opaque, but fairly okay. And then this is, you know, if I add more of that white pigment ink and I added like a gigantic blob, I can probably move it all the way to opaque. But see, it's a little bit, you know, translucent right in here, but you know what I mean? That light can cover dark, so that's what makes all these little things in here. Should you want to employ them, it makes them a little bit more dimensional that way. And that's something that for a long time we didn't really have the opportunity to play around with too much. I'm looking at right here. We could put like little birds or something like that in here. Maybe that'd be a little bit distracting because there's this right here, which is such a really strong focal point. So let's see here. Like that. That's roughly like a 45-degree right there. So a little bit of vellum. So I don't know. That didn't look. It doesn't look. That's a little bit more. It's a little bit more violet in person. Okay, so you can see that a little bit more violet. When I do it like that, it's kind of like changing the lighting on it right now, but it looks pretty good. It's interesting that reflection of this tree down here, because this is getting more light. Maybe, I don't know, but it's reflecting. I don't know the dynamic, but see that little area in there looks a little bit more purple in the reflection than that area up there, I think. But some nice depth with that right in there, and just for the fact that it's stamped onto the photograph, and you can't even see the vellum in the my video right here, I think. So I don't know. That vellum looks pretty good. There's that little edge right there, so I'll be trimming all this up nice and clean there to finish off this card. And then I'll figure out something to stamp on this part right here. You know, I tend to like quotes on this, you know, front part of the card like that. And what if I put like a quote right here, one of the, kind of the, okay, I haven't done these videos. Like I said, it feels like I haven't done it for like 2 months. Visual harmony and stuff like that, repetition of form. I think the perfect thing is you stamp a quote stamp right here, but then I would put like these little violet little dots, like just right around in here, like it's, you know, right around the quote, or, you know, something like this down here, so that you get a little bit of continuity between the whatever introduction into the card, something like that. You can also do it down here too. So this is sometimes you can do an inside out card, you know, and just say to someone, you know, whatever, but you know, with your send it and say love whoever. But I think like a little quote right here, and then you put on the back here to someone, you know, love, you know, whatever, Kevin, and then you can put those little dots down here too. You know what I mean? Or something like that, and that would be kind of cool. So just any type of little element from within here on the outsides, I think would be pretty, you know, would create kind of a nice sequence. It's like introduction, you know, or lead in, and then this is like the climax or whatever, and then you get the conclusion on the back. So it's like a 3-part type of sequencing there. Oh, yeah. Well, that's where I don't know if you saw that, Megan. I put this note up on that, what is it called? The community, Stampscapes community page. I just said, hey, I'm probably going to be gone for like this week. I didn't think I'd be back, no matter what happened. So, yeah. I don't know if that pops up for the people that are subscribed. It says, I added like whatever, something to the community page. Froggy Fresh adopted a possum. Wow. Your sister got you into stamping, huh, Bill? Oh, that's cool, Jennifer. 90 on Sunday. Happy birthday to him from me. Yeah, yeah. Mom was real independent. Most of the times, her biggest complaint was that she was so bored, you know. I wanted to get her into a little bit of a more, you know, an area that was closer to me, but, you know, she would drive around, you know, through her 80s for sure, but she would typically go in on like a, you know, like Central California up there, as where she lives at least. There's not a lot around there, so she would typically drive it's like right in the between this city called San Luis Obispo and like Santa Barbara. San Luis is an hour north. Santa Barbara's an hour south. She didn't really go into Santa Barbara though. They didn't have any cause to do that most of the time. But she'd often drive like an hour and a half, on some days just to get out of the house and do something to go check out like the seals on this beach up by San Simeon, which is where like Hearst Castle is or something like that. But that's at least, I don't know, that's over an hour away. But they would typically do that, like my mom and my dad. I don't know if she drove up there on her own after my dad passed a few years ago, but yeah, she was getting around. So that area up there, she was always mentioning how she got in the road, driving down to up to Santa Maria or something like that, which is about 20 miles away, where she didn't see like a single other car on the road. You know what I mean? It's not that small, yeah, like super rural or anything like that. Like Lompoc, where I grew up, that's got like 40,000 people, and I don't know. I can imagine Santa Maria is a couple 100,000 at this point in time, but the roads in between, it was just kind of she wasn't dealing around, dealing with traffic and all that stuff. So so she was still able to get out there and whatever, go wherever she wanted to go. And they'd been up there since the late 50s, so she certainly knew the area. Stamp Expo in Edison, New Jersey this weekend. That's cool, Sharita. Huh. I don't think I've heard of that. I know Stamp Expos. Not scrapbook expos, but Stamp Expos, though, Sharita. Huh. That's cool. I'll take a look at that and see which one. See if that's like an individual entity or if that's one of the those stamp coordinators that gets around to different cities and states. But I haven't heard that one before. Edison, New Jersey. I think I would have remembered that one. Let's see. Oh, your second expo and convention, Allentown. Now, see, I knew that one in Allentown. The Allentown, Pennsylvania is the Heirloom Conventions one, or Heirloom Productions, and I think they sold all of their conventions to, it was usually like local, at this point in time, local manufacturers as opposed to local retailers. And there's not too many retailers around anymore. But I think I'm pretty sure that one's was the heirloom one, which I never made it to. I think there was one in Allentown. I think there was one in Allentown and maybe York, Pennsylvania. That sounds really familiar. Um, oh, Debbie, yeah, yeah. Well, you can watch this one from the beginning if you're interested. Um, or I'll do it like a nice short version as well. Your dad too, huh, Jeannie? Yeah. I don't know. They just I don't know. Apparently you know, they made him tougher, or something like that. More resistance with some people to whatever whatever's going around in there. That they're never getting sick, at all. Let's see. Bonnie's a second child of four. I'm third of three in my birth order. And see, that's why I went into art. If I was like the first child, my parents were like, well, they didn't want me to study art. Well, my dad was cool. Do whatever you want. But my mom was like really kind of paranoid about that type of thing. She didn't want me to be a starving artist. There was this commercial that would come on, and it was like the starving artist sale. Thousands of paintings must go, oil paintings or something like that. So she didn't know about like graphic design and illustration and all that stuff. Because most we don't know people that are in art. Or the art field, design fields, or something like that when you're living in, Lompoc, California, outside of the some larger cities or something like that. So, but you know a bunch of people that are like engineers or something like that or whatever, that go into might study whatever financing or something like that. But yeah, so she was a little bit paranoid about that one. So they were supportive when they were real supportive when things looked like it was going fine. My mom said I was working for a stamp of the hand just as a part-time job, and when I told her, I said, "Hey, I got to go independent. I got to start my own company if I'm going to keep doing this." And she's like, "Well, she was really worried about that. So it's like, yeah, can't you just stay on with stamp of the hand?" It's like, hey, I'm going to be, I could, but I'll be making like minimum wage, and I can't just design anything that I want to. It has to be approved by them. So you cut to a few years later, and she says, "Hey, you remember whose idea it was to start, to go independent, right?" It's like, I don't know who. She was like, "I told you to do that." It's like, "Oh yeah, yeah, thanks." You know, you know. But that's typically, you know, she was just worried about it. You know what I mean? But I did have to fight back against the like my major in school. I just said, "Hey, that's like the only thing that I'm kind of good at, so um, and my dad was like, my mom said to my dad one time, "Hey, go talk with him," and my dad's heart wasn't in it. He just said, "Well, I tell you what, um, what if you minor in it, you know and plus art degrees don't really mean a thing. It's just, if you're an independent freelance illustrator, your grades and your actually majoring anything means zero. It just comes down to your portfolio." So anyway, yeah, let's see. Your great grandmother was 96. Wow, you got some good genes there, Bonnie. Yeah, great grandmother. My mom's 59. I'm older than my mom. Oh, got it. Yeah, but the grandmother, great grandmother, and grandmother, they're probably, you know, I don't know. Maybe like our, I don't know, whatever the previous generation, ate better before all these other type of additives and plastics and everything like that are all in our foods. Sometimes I wonder about that type of thing. Let's see. Your mom was a better stamper than you are? I don't know. I don't know. But she did stamp though. Oh, Bill, you're the oldest of six. Oh, wow. Already lost three of my in-laws too. Oh, yeah. It's been a tough year. I have a friend and his wife, and it's been a tough summer of this year. My friend and his wife lost his dad, and like a couple weeks later, his wife lost her mom, and then my sister and her husband. Well, my sister was flying down to, you know, get into Lompoc um, to see my mom. Her husband flew off to Texas to be with his mom, and those two passed just like days apart from each other. So yeah, it's been a pretty crazy summertime, just in terms of some acquaintances of mine. You know. So York is near Lancaster. Okay. Jennifer's 4 of 4. So, anyways, yeah, going back to that birth order, that's why we that came up there. Yeah, a lot of the art majors, okay, my co-art majors in art school. Well, I went to university and we were in the art program, but a lot of people in the art program, okay, not the design, but the art program, were were like the babies of the family. You know, it's like, oh, okay, you know what I mean. Those other siblings like wore down, the parents or something like that. Where it's like, yeah, whatever you want to do, go do it a little bit. Like I said, it just took a little bit of bending from on my part with my mom. Then she was, she was fine with it. She just accepted it, and she was all into it by the time I graduated, and whatever senior show, portfolio show, and all that type of thing. But yeah, so many of them were like last childs, going into like impractical, studying impractical majors. Let's see, Milwaukee had a stamp scrapbook expo every year till COVID hit. Oh, yeah. Yeah, some of the conventions ended with that with the lockdowns, including the longest running stamp convention, which was the Carson, California, which is in Los Angeles. That one, but that one was really kind of decreasing in terms of size and attendance, like leading up to it. So I was wondering if it was even going to continue on very much longer anyway. But then COVID came and it pretty much knocked that one out. There weren't too many vendors there, and the we were scheduled to do it from one weekend to the next when the lockdowns hit. We went out to Mesa. I'm saying we. I do the shows that I was doing was with the guy that made our rubber. Stampscapes is rubber, so we'd team up and we would share a booth. And the Mesa, Arizona show was one weekend, and then the following weekend was Carson, which they arranged that way. So if vendors were coming from the Midwest or long travel things, what they would do is they would go and visit clients along the way, and they can just kind of stay out here and attend both the Mesa show one weekend, and then I don't know, from Mesa to Carson's like a 7-hour drive or so, and they would do that one. So, but anyways, like on a Wednesday in between those two shows, whenever those lockdowns were, whatever year that was, the show got canceled and never came back. So anyway, yeah. But yeah, that's why. Okay, so I started this other group on Facebook called Rubber Stamping History, as a little aside here thing. So hopefully, if people had photographs of stores and shows or catalogs or anything like that, it doesn't have to be things that don't exist anymore, but, just, I don't know, some cool things over the, course of rubber stamping history, which includes a lot of those different types of events, retreats and workshops. It would just be kind of cool to have that type of thing kind of consolidated and documented, because there's so little information about all these shows out there. Like if someone looked up the, York, Pennsylvania Stamp Convention, I don't know if there's going to be like a single photograph up there, that someone's posted. There might be. But like even Carson, that was probably attended by, I don't know, hundreds of thousands of people over the years. I think there's like a couple YouTube videos where someone's, shot a video of them driving there, then, whatever, edited like a little compilation of, little still shots or videos of the actual show. There's not very much of that, for as popular as a lot of these things were, or stores that were around for 15 or 20 years. The biggest store in the history of stamping was Stampa Barbara, and there was like one photo of that store online that I could find years ago. I don't know if anything's been added, probably not, but yeah, just one photograph. And it was just in the front of the store. It wasn't even on the inside. So I don't know. That place used to be rubber stamping Mecca. I mean, people were flying from all over the country to go to that store. Or if they came in for if sometimes they'd fly in to Carson, because a lot of the companies weren't displaying at places like CHA or HIA, those trade shows like that. So Carson was like the location for retailers of rubber stamps to go to get information and to place orders, for their stores like that. But anyways, what I'm getting at is these people would come in from out of town, then they'd want to see like the biggest, store, rubber stamping store that exists at the time. So they drive up from Carson, 2 hours north to Santa Barbara to go to that. But there would be a lot of people that just flew in that were, from out of state to go to Santa Barbara. But there's like zero information out there. So if you guys have any kind of information or cool things to share, about whatever, you could have some kind of obscure tool that everyone used to use, with stamps. You can post it in that Facebook rubber stamping history group, and it'd be pretty cool to see. It takes us back in time. So like Mary Jo McGraw, there's some people that are posting up there, which is really fun. First only girl, 3 younger brothers, 2 have passed. 1 had a stroke. Yeah, the strokes are tough. Yeah. Like I said, my dad had one. Yeah. This is what I say of all kinds of bad stuff in our food. Yeah. Yeah, it has to be that. I did a lot of volunteering with my son in school, and I don't know, there were at least two. I don't think three, but at least two kids in every one of his elementary classes. Because we had to watch this because I was volunteering at the parties. At least two of them in each one of his classes of like 30 kids had that peanut allergy. And then, like, maybe there might be like 5 others where on all the party lists we had to say, okay, make sure, whatever, Jonathan doesn't get, whatever, gluten or something like that, or make sure this person doesn't get, whatever, dairy or something like that. There were like tons of kids with food allergies or something like that, where it's like I grew up and I was like in college before I even heard of like celiac sprue or like that peanut allergy or something like that. But it's like, I don't know, a decent percentage of them these days. So anyway, I think Kent was sort of overdoing Carson anyways. You think so, Chris? You mean having too many per year? If you think that, though, it's because at that time, if she didn't do that, some other entity would have started another convention in that LA area, which was kind of already happening with other shows like nearby, like in Orange County, or there were other places too. Just in the general, no one was putting another convention like right, at Carson or something like that. But we couldn't put that past certain coordinators that were doing that. There was this one coordinator, I won't say their name, but it was kind of maddening because he would have a convention at that same location as another established show, but it would really impact the retailer infrastructure of that given area, because people save money before they go to a show usually. So they're not buying anything in the stores, which is the entire reason for a show to be able to be in there, is because those stores were there. So, but there weren't a lot of stores in that LA area because the stamp convention itself was the entity that existed before a lot of the stores went in there. Whereas other areas, it was the stores first, and then a convention would move into. So she was putting on the shows twice a year, and then she just added the third one. But like I said, if that third one wasn't added, someone else would have just added something else, within that vicinity, almost assuredly, because it was, like I said, there were other ones that went in on some neighboring counties. And that's just rubber stamps. We're not even including the scrapbooking shows, But yeah. Let's see. No, yeah. When I was in the rehab center, there were some young guys in there with the strokes. I was talking to this one guy, and he lost. I forgot what hemisphere he lost, but he couldn't speak too well. But he was like a surfer up there in Santa Barbara, And he was like, "Oh my God, he just really misses surfing and stuff like that, But he was like a young dude when my dad was in that that rehab center. So yeah, you can hit at any age. Um, at Peklat in Norway, since my siblings are quite a bit older than me. Oh, there's a word for that, huh, Catherine? My siblings are not too much older than me. I saw this pattern in a lot of my uh, other families, but there's like two kids that are kind of like 2 years apart. And there's this other kid, that comes along later, like 5 years or so or whatever. And that's what I was. My brother is 5 years older than me, and my sister's 7. So it's like I don't know what happens. The other two kids are both in elementary school or something like that. I don't know. The parents are it's like okay, if you want to, we'll have one more if we're in an accident or something like that. But yeah, and it was kind of interesting too because a lot of my friends were that way. They were like the youngest of their family. And then when my sister thought about it, it was like, okay, I said, hey, how, what sibling order were a lot of your friends? And a lot of her friends were like oldest childs of their family or only child. So I don't know, birds of a feather maybe, or maybe we're in the same classes. A bunch of us youngest kids are in that. But I don't think that was it though. I don't know. It is what we weren't conscious of it, but yeah. Let's see. Alpha gal syndrome. Nothing allowed from mammal or byproduct dairy. Wow. That's what that's called? I don't think I've even heard of the syndrome before. Or whatever. What? Nothing allowed from a mammal or byproduct. So what are we talking about? Dairy. So seafood then, and like reptiles. You're eating rattlesnake then, Candy? Rattlesnake sausage. Hmm. Oh, I was asking if your mom was a better stamper than me. Oh, of course, Megan, right? Anything for mom. Yeah. All right, folks. Hey, thanks so much for jumping in. It was really great to get back and, you know, get back doing some stamping with all of you. It's always been fun. And, this whole last week's been pretty crazy. I was like, I can't wait to see everyone here again and just kind of get back into the swing of things. I think this card came out pretty good, and I did one last week. Like I was saying, when I don't stamp for a while, it feels like it's 1 week feels like a month oftentimes. So it really feels like I haven't stamped for a lot longer than this whatever it's been. What is it, 2 weeks or a week and a half or something like that? So yeah, but I didn't, this isn't like a completely new technique or anything like that. But I was curious about certain things. I hadn't been stamping on the vellum for quite some time, so I'm really pleased with how this looks right here. That recent vellum test that I did, the front of the vellum impressions and the back of the vellum impression, it looked too similar. You know what I mean? So if you're going to do the vellum type of thing, I mean, you could do that, and you can just take advantage of, that transparency, translucency or something like that. But I think it's really fun to take advantage of that translucency and creating depth, in terms of scenic stamping, It's just an easy way to do that by slapping that piece of vellum across there and just creating like instant depth. Okay, and I did all this coloring. That's what this whole video live stream's been about. But I think it looked pretty good. Like say if you just were stamping out the imagery in this type of technique right here without all those little, the things I did are kind of subtle in here like that. But if you just stamped on this and did a construction of this card, I think it looked pretty good, And I think it'd be like almost like a quick card version of things. So I think that'd be pretty cool to do. So sometimes when I do these types of things like this, I'll just do a quick card version of it, so it'd be the difference between whatever. I don't know how long that took. hour. I don't know. Are we going on like 2 hours now? But I don't know. We've been talking away here, but I think we can come up with something similar like this without very much color. 20 minutes maybe, something like that. And I think it'd be a pretty dynamic card like that. So anyway, fish or feathers? What about candy and what about that scales? Like a snake. All right. Thanks for joining in, everyone. Be you a silent viewer of the streams or in the chats, always appreciate it. All right. Hope to see you on the next stream and the next live stream or whatnot, or if you're on Facebook. And again, if you want to contribute to, or just look at the Facebook Stampscapes group too. But that rubber stamping history one is a pretty cool one too. I want to get that thing going as well. So yeah. All right. Have a great evening to all of you as well, and hope you have a great rest of evening. And let's see, it is Friday, so the weekend. I've lost track of time. All right. Good night, everyone.